when the storm comes. Storms come to every life. Loss, failure, betrayal, pain, they strike without warning. In our last reflection, we learned to see life as it is, with clarity and freedom. Today, the question deepens, not just how to see, but how to stand unbroken when the storm arrives. Welcome back to Stoic Wellspring, where we learn the ancient art of resilience, not just to endure the storm, but to grow stronger because of it. The power of resilience. This reflection is not about avoiding hardship, because no life is free from storms. It is about resilience, the Stoic strength to bend without breaking, to suffer without surrendering, and to rise even stronger after the fall. Resilience is not simply survival. It is transformation, pain becoming wisdom, wounds becoming strength. And right now, we'll uncover how the Stoics trained resilience, so that when the storm comes, you are not shattered, you are unbroken. Part 1. Resilience is transformation. Resilience is not about avoiding pain, but transforming it into wisdom and strength. The first truth about resilience is this: resilience is transformation. Too often, we think of resilience as simple toughness, the ability to grit our teeth and survive the storm. But Stoic resilience is deeper. It is not merely enduring pain, but reshaping pain into wisdom, reshaping loss into strength. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He was reminding himself that obstacles are not interruptions of the path. They are the path. To be resilient is to see adversity not as something that blocks life, but as something that shapes life. Imagine a tree in the wind. A storm bends its branches, snaps a few twigs, strips away its leaves. Yet in the bending, the tree's roots dig deeper. In the loss of leaves, it learns to conserve energy. What looked like damage becomes preparation for survival. The storm did not destroy the tree. It transformed it. Epictetus told his students in the Discourses, "Remember, you are an actor in a play. If the author wants it short, it is short. If long, it is long. If he wishes you to play a beggar, act that part well. If a king, act that part well." His point was simple. You do not choose the script of life, but you choose how to perform it. Resilience is the art of performance, turning even the harshest roles into dignity. Think about your own past. The moments that truly shaped you were not the easy ones. They were the betrayals, the failures, the heartbreaks. At the time, they felt like devastation. But in hindsight, they were the moments when your roots grew deeper. Resilience is not surviving untouched. It is surviving changed. Seneca once wrote in his letters to Lucilius, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." He saw hardship not as curse, but as training. For him, resilience was exercise. Every trial another weight lifted by the soul. So practice this. When pain comes, do not ask, "Why me?" Ask, "How can this shape me?" In the Stoic view, every storm, every wound, every loss is not the end of you. It is the forge of you. Part 2. Resilience is standing in the storm. The second truth about resilience is this: resilience is standing in the storm. We cannot command the skies. We cannot stop the winds. Storms, whether of illness, betrayal, failure, or loss, are not optional. What is optional is how we choose to stand in them. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself in his meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." His wisdom was simple but radical. The storm is not your enemy. Your mind's surrender is. Picture a sailor at sea. The storm rises, waves crash, winds howl. He cannot silence the storm, but he can hold the wheel, adjust the sails, and ride the waves. Resilience is not the fantasy of calm seas, but the discipline of steering through the storm. Epictetus told his students in the Discourses, "Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do happen, and your life will go well." Resilience is this wish, not for a stormless life, but for the strength to face storms as they come. Think of how most people respond to hardship. They curse, resist, collapse. They waste energy demanding that the storm not be there. But the Stoic does not waste breath cursing the rain. He adjusts, adapts, endures. He keeps his dignity in the tempest. Seneca wrote in his letters to Lucilius, "Fire tests gold, adversity tests men." His point was not that storms are pleasant, but that they are the only way to reveal true character. A calm sea makes fragile sailors. Only storms make captains. So practice this when the storm rises in your life. Do not ask, "Why me?" Instead, ask, "How will I stand?" Because storms will come. But how you meet them will decide whether you break or remain unbroken. Part 3. Resilience turns pain into strength. The third truth about resilience is this: resilience turns pain into strength. To the Stoics, suffering is never meaningless. Pain, though unwelcome, is raw material to be used, shaped, and transformed into power. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his Meditations, "What happens to each of us is ordered for the good of the whole. The misfortune of one is the fortune of another. All is woven together." He was reminding himself that even hardship has a place in the larger order. Resilience is the art of weaving pain into the fabric of strength. Think of an athlete. Muscles do not grow without resistance. The strain, the tear, the ache, these are not punishments, but the very process of growth. In the same way, the soul does not grow without trial. Resilience is training the soul through hardship. Epictetus told his students in the Discourses, "Difficulties are things that show what men are." For him, pain was a revealer. It peeled back the layers of comfort and showed the raw strength beneath. Imagine heartbreak. At first, it feels like devastation, the collapse of trust, the shattering of hope. But with time, you discover that the pain carved space inside you for wisdom, for patience, for deeper love. The wound became a teacher. Seneca once wrote in his letters to Lucilius, "Disaster is virtue's opportunity." To him, catastrophe was not just ruin. It was a chance to practice courage, patience, justice, self-control. Every wound was also an arena. So practice this. When pain comes, do not waste it. Ask, how can this become strength? Do not just endure. Transform. For resilience is not passive survival, but active alchemy, the turning of pain into power. Part 4. Resilience is endurance with purpose. Endurance alone is not enough. Stoic resilience endures with meaning. The fourth truth about resilience is this: resilience is endurance with purpose. Anyone can grit their teeth and suffer for a while. But Stoic endurance is not blind or meaningless. It is purposeful. It is chosen. It is tied to values higher than comfort. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in his meditations, "If you are distressed by anything external, remember, it is not the thing that disturbs you, but your judgment of it, and this you have the power to revoke." He endured pain not for the sake of pain, but for the sake of principle, duty, justice, truth. Imagine a soldier in battle. He does not endure hunger, cold, and exhaustion simply to prove he can suffer. He endures for his comrades, his mission, his homeland. His pain is given purpose, and purpose transforms suffering into strength. Epictetus taught in the Discourses, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish. Wish that they happen as they do happen. Then your life will go smoothly." This was not passivity, but purposeful endurance, aligning your will with reality so that hardship serves growth. Think of the worker who toils day after day in silence. Without purpose, his endurance becomes despair. With purpose, providing for his family, serving his craft, the same toil becomes meaningful, even noble. Seneca once wrote in his letters to Lucilius, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Though later echoed by Nietzsche, Seneca saw clearly that purpose makes endurance possible. Resilience is not just about surviving pain, but about having a reason that makes survival worth it. So practice this. When hardship comes, do not ask only, "How long must I endure?" Ask also, "Why am I enduring?" Find the higher purpose. Endurance with purpose is not just survival. It is honor. It is resilience. Part 5. Resilience is growth through adversity. Adversity is not just survived, it becomes the ground for growth. The fifth truth about resilience is this: resilience is growth through adversity. The Stoics did not see hardship as something to be merely endured. They saw it as soil, rough, unyielding, but fertile. Character grows best not in comfort but in struggle. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He saw adversity not as obstruction, but as instruction. Every obstacle a lesson, every challenge a teacher. Think of how a seed grows. Buried in darkness, pressed by weight, broken open by pressure. Only then does it sprout. Without the soil's resistance, there is no growth. Adversity is the weight that cracks us open so that we may rise. Epictetus taught in the Discourses, "Difficulties are the things that show what men are." To him, adversity was the training ground. It revealed weakness, yes, but in revealing, it offered the chance to build strength. Imagine losing a job. At first, it feels like collapse. Security gone, identity shaken. But in time, it becomes ground for reinvention. New skills are learned. New paths are opened. The loss that once seemed destruction becomes construction. Seneca once wrote in his letters to Lucilius, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." To him, adversity was friction, painful but essential. Without it, the soul remains dull. With it, the soul shines. So practice this. When adversity arrives, do not ask, "How do I escape this?" Ask, "What can I learn from this? How can I grow?" For resilience is not the denial of difficulty, but the discovery of strength within it. Part 6. Resilience is shared strength. True resilience is not solitary. It draws strength from and gives strength to others. The sixth truth about resilience is this: resilience is shared strength. Too often, we imagine resilience as the lone warrior, standing against the storm by himself. But even the Stoics, who prized self-mastery, knew that true resilience is strengthened and even made possible by community. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in his meditations, "We were born for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids. To act against one another is contrary to nature." For him, resilience was not isolation, but cooperation, a strength multiplied by unity. Imagine a village in winter. Alone, a family might freeze. Together, they share fire, food, labor. Resilience is not only the courage to endure your own burden, but the humility to accept help and the generosity to give it. Epictetus told his students in the Discourses, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." His point was not humiliation for its own sake, but the resilience to remain teachable, to lean on others, to learn through community. Think of how grief works. Alone, it crushes. Shared, it softens. Tears shed together are lighter than tears shed alone. To be resilient is not to be unbreakable steel, but to be woven into a net, where when one strand weakens, others hold. Seneca once wrote in his letters to Lucilius, "No man can live happily who looks only to himself. He must live for his neighbor too." His message was clear. Resilience grows when life is shared. Solitude hardens the heart. Fellowship strengthens it. So practice this. When hardship strikes, do not close yourself off. Share your burden. Offer your strength. True resilience is not an island. It is a bridge. Part 7. Resilience is choosing meaning over suffering. You cannot always avoid pain, but you can always choose meaning. The seventh truth about resilience is this: resilience is choosing meaning over suffering. Pain without meaning crushes. Pain with meaning transforms. The Stoics never promised a painless life, but they offered something better, a meaningful one. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in his meditations, "Do not pray for a life without hardship. Pray instead for the strength to endure hardship well." This was not resignation, but empowerment, the choice to meet pain with purpose. Imagine two patients in the same hospital ward. One curses his illness, sinking into despair. The other uses his illness as an opportunity to grow closer to loved ones, to practice patience, to reflect on life. The same pain, two meanings. One suffers. The other transforms. Epictetus taught in the Enchiridion, "Remember that you are an actor in a play, and it is not yours to choose the length or the role, but only to play it well." Meaning is found not in avoiding the role, but in performing it with dignity. Seneca once wrote in his letters to Lucilius, "A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than necessary." His advice was not to deny pain, but to deny needless suffering, the kind that comes from resisting reality instead of embracing it. Think of grief again. To lose someone you love is always pain. But grief can either be an endless pit or a sacred tribute. The pain is real, but meaning is a choice. And in that choice, resilience is born. So practice this. When pain comes, ask not only, "How much does this hurt?" but also, "What meaning can I give it?" Pain is inevitable. Meaning is optional. Resilience is choosing the second. Part 8. Resilience is freedom. Resilience is not just survival. It is the inner freedom no storm can take away. The final truth about resilience is this: resilience is freedom. To survive hardship is one thing. To rise above it, unbroken and unshaken, is another. The Stoics believed that resilience leads not only to endurance, not only to growth, but to the highest good, inner freedom. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is resilience in its purest form, the realization that no storm can chain your mind unless you consent. Epictetus, who lived as a slave, taught his students in the Discourses, "No man is free who is not master of himself." His chains were real, but his spirit was free. Resilience was his rebellion, the refusal to let external bondage define inner freedom. Think of Nelson Mandela, though not a Stoic, yet living their truth. Imprisoned for decades, he emerged not broken but unbroken, carrying not hatred but vision. His body was confined, but his spirit remained vast. That is resilience, freedom that no bars can contain. Seneca once wrote in his letters to Lucilius, "The man who has set himself above fortune, who has learned to scorn pain and death, is no longer a slave." Freedom, then, is not political but spiritual. Resilience is the road to that freedom. Imagine your own storms: illness, betrayal, failure. You cannot always stop them, but you can always choose this: to remain free in spirit. That freedom is resilience fulfilled. So practice this. When you feel chained by circumstance, whisper to yourself, "My mind is my own." That whisper is freedom. That whisper is resilience. Pause now. Let the storm settle in your mind. Ask yourself, where have I been broken? And where have I remained unbroken? What wounds still ache, not because of the pain itself, but because I have not yet given them meaning. In this silence, imagine roots growing deeper, not despite the storm, but because of it. The storm passes. What remains is you, tested, scarred, but unbroken. 8 lessons. 8 ways to turn storms into strength and wounds into wisdom. Remember, resilience is not just surviving, it is becoming unbroken, free in spirit, even when the body and the world are shaken. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." If this reflection helped you stand taller in your own storms, share it with someone who may be weathering theirs. Let resilience ripple outward. And if you want to keep walking this path with me, subscribe to Stoic-Wellspring. Each week, we grow steadier, wiser, freer, together. In the next reflection, we'll explore how the Stoics practiced clarity in chaos, how to see truth when the world is loud, and find peace when the mind is crowded. Be well, be still, be free.